Well, yesterday, level one results came out. I should put it in context. Yesterday, June 26th. Because you could be listening to this a week from now and thinking, yesterday, the guy's on drugs. Look at that pass score, 45%. It's getting back to the range that it was in pre pandemic. That still means that 55% DNP did not pass. And if you are moving on, and even if you're not, if you're not, you're going to probably be taking the November level one. You have till up to August 5th to register. If you're going to do the level two for November, it's the same August 5th. Let's have a look at our decision tree here. If you did not pass level one, I see no reason why you would wait longer than November. It's the same content. You're not starting from scratch. You already have a firm foundation beneath you, so I don't think that you need that much time. Look at that cost though, $1,290. Early bird is done. I haven't looked at the exam writing cost for some time. I was shocked when I saw the numbers. $1,290. You really don't want to take the chance on not passing when you're paying out that kind of money. Maybe that's a good thing. If you're putting out that much, maybe it purifies your thought process and it focuses your strategy a bit more because you think, I don't want to have to pay this a couple of times, right? But 55% of the cohort are going to have to. For level two, you can make a run for November. The deadline is August 5th. Again, it's the same 1290. It's a tight window. Level two, the next level two is all the way to next May. It opens, and there should be a question mark here. I'm not sure when registration opens for the May exam. Typically, it's usually in the first or second week of August. I don't know if that'll be the case this year, but registration is not open for May 26 yet. So I looked at what the early bird price would be for that, $11.40. So it's really only a difference of $150 if you don't make the early registration. Prices are going up next year, $14.90. You know, you really have to think very seriously when you're putting out that money about how you're going to conduct yourself to this exam. This is at that price. You really don't want to take the chance of not passing, right? Level one for February 26, early bird, same thing, 1140. It's 1290 for November. It's only a savings of 150. I thought if it was 300, I'd say, well, maybe you want to, if finances are concerned, squeak it into February. But for 150 to take the chance that maybe the content might be different in 2026 versus 2025. Just to give you some context, as you go from level one to level two, the strategy that got you by level one is going to have to be upgraded to get you past level two. And then that has to be upgraded again to get you past level three. On the next screen, I'll show you how the LLMs and LRMs, these are large language models and large reasoning models. I'll show you how they do on the three levels of CFA. Let's just have a look at the cognitive skills that are tested and the knowledge types. Level one really hangs out at the lower cognitive skills, recall, understanding, and application. It is testing your declarative knowledge, your conceptual knowledge, and your procedural knowledge. The LLMs and LRMs really focus on this. They tend to do a pretty good job at this level, although I will say they're anywhere from 80% to 90% correct. Right? So if you are using a CFA chatbot, and there are some out there that are built on OpenAI's architecture, for example. Keep in mind, they are just 80 to 90% correct, and you are paying, some $1,300 to do this. Said another way, they're 10 to 20% wrong. So do you want to entrust your direction to a tutor or an instructor who is known to be 10 to 20% wrong? For level two, it starts to get into the metacognitive types of knowledge. So the skill here, analysis, you're going to get quite a bit of this at level two. We will see that the LLMs and LRMs break down once they get past procedural knowledge, that they generally lack metacognitive knowledge. By the time you get to level 3, you're heavy in the metacognitive knowledge domain, evaluation and analysis. And I will show you on the next screen that there is no LLM or LRM today that can pass level 3. Oh, they can pass the GMAT, the LSAT, the MCAT. They can pass a whole bunch of tests, but they cannot pass level 3, because level 3 tests metacognitive knowledge, which means you need the skills of analysis and evaluation. And even though these are called reasoning models, they do not really reason. They take a prompt and they break it down into a smaller chain of thought, and each one of these then hits the LLM, which is really just a pattern matcher. It has no real self-awareness of any understanding. It simply just matches patterns. It does fairly well down here. When it's given tasks that match very common patterns, it does a very good job. I'm going to give you an example of some types of questions at level 1 that it does very well on, and that you would do very well on. And then some types of questions that are common at level 1 and level 2 that it doesn't do very well on. I'll give you an example of a setup at level 3 using nothing but logical statements, no specific domain information, but just a logical structure. And I'll show you the common type of logical structure at level 3, of which they do not do well on at all. Okay, I used Perplexity, and I asked it, how does the current LLMs, LRMs do on the CFA exams? And we start with GPT-4 here with advanced, and I'll explain what this means here in a moment. With advanced prompting techniques, such as few shot and chain of thought prompting, GPT-4 and comparable proprietary models can achieve scores at or above the estimated passing thresholds for CFA level 1 and 2. That is at or above the estimated passing threshold, but advanced prompting and few shot or chain of thought, which means you got to give it some examples. And advanced prompting means you can't just give it the question and say, what do you think the answer is? You have to give it some kind of prompt, some kind of input. GPT-4, when provided with in-context examples and reasoning prompts, can clear both level 1 and level 2. But listen, so can you. Although performance on level 2 is often just above the minimum passing score and remains borderline in some cases, when you walk into the exam, that's it. You see a question, there's nobody over your shoulder that is giving you any kind of in-context example. Say, okay, you see this question? A good example of this question would be, you don't have that, but they have that, right? You got to walk in far more prepared. Pay attention here. Performance on level 2 is often just above the minimum passing score. Level 1 estimate is somewhere around 72 to 74%. Level 2, the estimate is somewhere between 68 to, I think, somewhere around 72. Level 3 is around 65. So they're getting just above the minimum passing score. That's 68%. That's it. Open source models, when augmented with retrieval augmented generation, that means you're actually giving it all the readings that allow access to CFA textbooks. That's like an open book exam, right? Can also reach passing scores for level 1 and 2, though typically only at the lower bound of the estimated passing range. So it becomes a question of what's going on here. If you're giving it the textbooks, and you're giving it examples, and you're giving it the good prompts, better prompts to answer the question, why can it not answer the question? Is because of the structure of the logic in the questions. ChatGPT earlier models than the 4 series do not pass either level 1 or level 2, struggling especially with more complex analytical questions demonstrating significant knowledge gaps in finance. On level 3, all current LLMs, this is GPT-4 and Claude, no model has been able to reliably pass level 3, which is heavily essay-based. It's not. This is wrong. I don't want you to think it's essay. Structured response-based requires advanced professional judgment, synthesis, and written communication. These are metacognitive skills. Even the best performing models fall short, particularly in the essay section again. Structured response with scores well below the estimated passing threshold. They can't pass level 3. because of the logical structure. If we look at the type of logic, we can talk about propositional logic, first order logic, and non-monotonic logic, deductive reasoning, inductive and abductive reasoning. Level 1 is heavily populated right here. It has some here and some here, but is heavy over here, where a question setup would be of the form premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, which is correct. And it'll give you 3 conclusions, which is correct. Or the question may start from the conclusion and say which is correct or which is incorrect. So you might have 2 correct premises and an incorrect premise. If you have the premises, the conclusion must be true if the premises are true. So you ask questions of the form which is right, which is wrong, which is incorrect, which is true, which is false, things like that. Once we move to inductive reasoning and abductive reasoning, the question changes to most likely, least likely. And you've seen questions like that. Most of the logic is one step away, which means you're given some premises and you have to come up with the correct conclusion or the most likely conclusion. You're given a conclusion and you're asked which is a most likely premise. Once you get to level 2, the questions start to take on a first order logic. Answers can be anywhere from 1 to 2 steps away. Difference between propositional and first order. First order then begins to add qualifiers for all, for some. It becomes a bit more vague in that sense, and sometimes the answer is up to 2 steps away. Once you start moving away from 1 step to 2, etc., the performance on these reasoning models drop. Once you move away from propositional and deductive reasoning to inductive and abductive, the performance drops. If you move from propositional to first order, and especially first order with inductive and abductive reasoning that are 2 steps away, it really drops a lot. But this is table stakes. This is what you're expected to know. The world of finance is very rarely propositional in terms of the logical structure, and in terms of reasoning is more often abductive than not. More often non-monotonic and abductive. By the time you get to level 3, you're really dealing with non-monotonic logical structures. The difference between this is propositional. As new information comes in, it does not invalidate a conclusion. That you can have premise 1, premise 2, and that means you can conclude C1. As new information comes in, this would always stay the same. If yields rise, bond prices fall. No matter what new information comes in, it would never invalidate that propositional logic. If yields rise, if that is true, it follows, the conclusion follows, bond prices are dropping, period. No new information changed that. But non-monotonic means you have premise 1, premise 2, premise 3. You conclude 1, which with a certain probability, but new information comes along. Well, it can invalidate a conclusion. Monotonic logic, you don't invalidate the conclusions. By the time you get to level 3, you get those kind of questions with logic that might be up to 3 steps away. So level 1, proposition, 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 which is a correct conclusion. Level 2, you might not have the conclusion. The conclusion might be something you got to know in your head, and it might just ask for an implication. Given proposition 1, proposition, the 3 propositions, what implication does that have for asset class selection, for example? Which means that you'd have to take these, you'd have to conclude something, take the conclusion, and then move to the implication. That's 2 steps away. By the time you get to level 3, you could be up to 3 steps away, where the conclusion and the implication are implicit. Here are the premises. What action should you take? Well, I got to go from premises to conclusion, conclusion to implication, implication to action. So those may be implicitly known. Well, once you start getting this many steps away, especially on abductive reasoning, which is plausible or probable is more inductive reasoning, they break down. And with non-monotonic logic, new information can invalidate the C. So a good question setup I like to give is the action, and see if you can go backwards, and then introduce new information, and then see if you can then bring it forwards to the different action. So I might say, here's the portfolio. that was set up based on what the asset manager thought would happen. Here is a benchmark portfolio. What was the portfolio manager positioning for given the distribution of these key rates? And since you have the action, you would have to go backwards to the implication, backwards to the conclusion. Then I'll change the premise and see if you can go forward. LLMs have a very difficult time doing that. LRMs as well. Again, keep in mind, none of them can pass level 3. So if we think about what our goal is for CFA, I had written it on the previous screen. Our goal is in taking the program is to become a domain knowledge expert, right? However, that's not enough. We must be a domain knowledge expert with metacognitive skills. So the sooner you develop metacognitive skills, the better it's going to be, because level 3 is pretty much all metacognitive. You're not going to get through level 3 if you think that the exam is going to really be this type of logical structure, or maybe even first order. You are going to get to logical structures where conclusions can be invalidated, where you're 2 to 3 cognitive steps away from where the question happens to be. Let's have a look at some research output. This is from a published paper in early June of 2025, just a couple of weeks old. Model performance on different reasoning tasks. You can see the models across the bottom and the types of reasoning: abductive, analogical, deductive, inductive, and what the total score is. We just look at the total on some of these: 79%, 81%, 80%, 79%. Now these are all one step away. It should get 100% of these, but we're at much lower than that, around anywhere from as low as 73% to 85%. Let's add some steps to it. Performance degradation with increased reasoning depth. Performance significantly drops as the number of reasoning steps or depth of the problem increases. Multi-logi-eval. This is a benchmark to test logical reasoning of LRMs and LLMs. Average accuracy plummeting from around 68% at depth 1 to approximately 43% at depth 5. LLMs struggle with longer, more complex chains of logical inference. Premise, conclusion, implication, action tends to break down. You're going from 68 down to 43, 68% here, and you're dropping, by the time you get here, 43%, which is lower than a passing score. This is a typical level 3 setup that would be considered above average in difficulty. Struggles with specific logic types. Accuracy often diminishes considerably when tackling first order logic, and even more so with non-monotonic reasoning. That is where level 3 lives. First order, you're going to get a lot of this at level 2. Not so much at level 1. Level 1, like I say, really hangs out at the lower types of knowledge, the declarative knowledge, which is just a bunch of facts. You can memorize them. That's why it's associated with the cognitive skill of recall. Conceptual knowledge means I understand the facts. Not only can I remember the facts, I understand the facts. And procedural knowledge means I can apply the facts. Once it gets to analysis and evaluation, especially when you combine it you start moving away from propositional logic, which is of the form, if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true, to if we accept the premises, then most likely this would be the conclusion. So we go from probable and plausible from certainty. You're going to get, this is pretty much level 1. Level 2 starts to get into here with a little bit here, but you're really going to be sitting here. And level 3 is pretty much all up here. So you do have to migrate. So let's talk about how markmeldrum.com can help you with metacognitive skills. If you opt for CFA level 1 plus or the level 2 plus, it comes bundled with the applied analysis. At level 3 plus, it comes bundled with the applied asset management. We don't need to talk about that here. If you already have the applied level, then you don't have to subscribe to the Plus series. If you're at CFA Level 1 and you take CFA Level 1 Plus and you move on to Level 2, you don't even have to take the Plus. The applied level, the applied analysis has no expiration date. So even though your CFA Level 1 would expire shortly after your exam period, the applied analysis continues on. There are 3 modules here: sector studies, 81 hours of content, financial modeling, 17 hours, and AI for finance. I'm up to about 9.5 hours, and I'm continually adding to this one. I am adding to this one, and once I get through enough of this, I will begin to add to this again. The sector studies covers the 11 sectors of the economy, and within each sector covers 2 or 3 of the really big sub-industries. I think I've got about 16 of the 63 sub-industries covered. The PDFs will be added soon, so on the screen you'll be able to go through a lot more detail. And then you take a quiz, and if you get 75% on that quiz, you get a certificate for that particular sector. And there are, again, 11 sectors. And if you add 22 subsectors, you get a sector specialist certificate. For financial modeling, we use Costco for the sell side. And then we use a REIT, a peer group of REITs to do buy side modeling. And I'll show you what's in AI for finance shortly. So with sector studies and financial modeling, we're really building on your domain knowledge here, declarative and conceptual knowledge with sector studies. Once we get into financial modeling, you're hitting application, which hits your procedural knowledge. I should say that the quizzes that we generate in here are all written at the level of analysis and evaluation. There are no quiz questions at the lower levels of knowledge. AI for finance begins to develop your metacognitive skills. It is using AI tools and understanding where AI tools leave off, and then developing those higher level skills, because somebody with metacognitive skills will not be replaced by AI. If you fail to develop metacognitive skills, the AI, the LLMs, LRMs are going to get very, very good at declarative, conceptual, and procedural knowledge. They'll only get better. But because they're just code, they have no awareness. They do not learn. And when they do learn, all they do is add more code. They will not get to the level of metacognitive skill, not on the current pattern matching architecture that they have right now. So let's have a look at what we're doing in here. As far as pricing goes, the applied analysis is $425 on its own. If you're getting it as part of the CFA package, it's $275 included, because it's minus $100 if you have any CFA status or any CFA standing at all, and then minus another $50 if you're an mm.com subscriber. So let's say that you decide to take your CFA course from another provider, although I don't know why. Let's just say that you did. You could still get $100 off the applied analysis. For you, it would be $325 if you're in the CFA community anywhere. You get that discount, and if you are subscribing on our CFA package, another $50 off. So the cost included in here is $275, and again, it doesn't expire. Okay, I'll walk you through our table of contents so far. Every Monday I add more videos to the series. AI for Finance intro really just gives you an introduction to all the tools that are out there and all the terminology. When you hear LLM, LRM, AI agents, what does all that mean? This next video I curated from YouTube. The author of it, it's 2 hours long, was a co-founder of AI and was the head of Tesla's autopilot for 5 years. Really good speaker, really good teacher. You're going to enjoy that one. Understanding LLMs. Here I give you a breakdown of the structure of how these things are built, and you see very quickly that these are pattern matching pieces of software, probabilistically so, but still just pattern matchers based on the context that is provided. These next 3, transformers, because if you to understand LLMs, it's based on a transformer technology. This does a really good job of visually showing you how it works. More about transformers here and how might LLMs store facts, because they really don't. If you tear open an LLM and look inside, you'll see all they have are weights, that they actually don't have a database of information. They don't remember anything. They predict what the next token will be. So this sort of gives you a sort of insight in how might they store facts. Notebook LM with Costco. We did financial modeling with Costco in the applied analysis, and we, as analysts, have to determine how are we going to model memberships? How are we going to model membership rewards? How are we going to model sales per square foot? How are we going to model CapEx and the number of stores that open each year? We have to make all these decisions. AI is not going to be of much use to that. It's not as if we can give the model 5 years of statements and say, tell me how to model revenues. But what we can do is, after we decide how we're going to model revenue, we can then ask the LLM, we can prompt the LLM and say, does this make sense? Or what things should I think about when I model revenues? And it'll give us a list, and we can determine whether or not we've actually included that. Using AI Studio as an analyst. This one is really neat because we can share our screen with this one. And as we read through a 10K, we can stop and we can ask with just voice, what does this term mean? What does this word mean? What is the accounting standard behind the way they're accounting for this? And it will tell us in a voice. It's like having an analyst sitting right beside us. We go into some critical thinking. Session 1 and 2 here is really about the anatomy of an argument, premises and conclusions, warrants, implicit and explicit components of an argument. Then we'll use AI to analyze 3 arguments. We'll analyze Michael Saylor's argument about Bitcoin. We analyze a Fed governor, one of his speeches. And we analyze something that was said on the All In podcast. And we will ask AI to analyze what was said in terms of the language of the anatomy of an argument. You wouldn't know to ask an LLM that question unless you understood the anatomy of an argument. So you have to get that first. That's the first step on the path towards getting metacognitive skills, is understanding, well, what is critical thinking, and how is critical thinking different than me just thinking about what I want to have for dinner, right? We do a paper discussion, The Illusion of Thinking by Apple, and we look at the implications of what that means. Go back to Notebook LM, and here we're going to load it up with a bunch of stuff, 18 quarters, Disney's quarterly earnings, and then we're going to ask questions across the quarters. Rather than having 18 tabs open in a browser and then clicking on each tab and reading each section, we'll find that this is very effective at reading across line items across the 18 quarters. Critical thinking, session 3, will dive into logical fallacies, and then we will use Notebook LM again to assess something that somebody said and ask within the argument to identify any logical fallacies. For this one, we're going to use Sam Altman's blog post about the gentle singularity, and then we're going to ask it to analyze how a journalist covered it, and we'll see that the journalist had some bias in the language that they used that we might not have picked up on. Critical thinking session 4, models and frameworks, and AI and jobs, a first principles exercise. Here for models and frameworks, what we're going to do is we cover off things like first order thinking, first principles, second order thinking, Socratic method, root cause analysis, and then we get the AI to make a copper argument for us. We have an idea about copper, we have a conclusion, and we will engage in root cause analysis and Socratic questioning with the AI to purify our thoughts. We'll let the AI do all the research for us while we question it. And then I show you how to break down something that is difficult to discuss. Is AI going to create jobs or take away jobs? And you have arguments on both sides. So what I do is I reduce everything to first principles. And when you start at first principles, these are things that we can all widely agree on. And then we build up arguments from first principles. That is getting to the root of metacognitive skills, is to be able to do that. And in the weeks coming up, we will continue to add to this series. So this will help you with your metacognitive knowledge, and the AI tools that we use and the examples we use are all from the finance domain. And being that this is a rapidly changing environment, every week there's a new tool out, there's a new capability, there's something more that it can do. I was watching a video on YouTube yesterday. There's this like this Olympics of Excel. I don't know if you ever seen this, where people compete at really high levels with financial modeling with Excel. And one person showed how they got ChatGPT to do a lot of the Excel, a lot of the difficult Excel formulas for them. I didn't understand most of it because it was using a whole bunch of stuff in Excel that I've never used before, but it was pretty impressive to see. Use Gemini and ChatGPT to see them both working with the spreadsheet at that level. I think it's just a matter of time before an AI will be able to completely develop a spreadsheet, and you as the analyst will say, here's how I want you to model revenues, here's how I want you to model expenses, I want you to do this and that. You prompt it with enough context and it will build the spreadsheet for you. So over time, as these tools come online, I will cover them in this series. So this will be an ongoing series. We're up to nine and a half hours so far, and there's your PDF downloads for all the notes that we introduced in this series. And that's it.